So I want to start off by saying where I stand on this whole thing. I personally am not a fan of Richard Spencer. I'm not alt-right. I don't really like the alt-right. And I also don't really like Antifa or the people that tend to be the strongest against the right. I'm probably like politically probably center-right. So I think while I have my own biases on all this, at the very least I'm not partisan in this specific instance of Richard Spencer versus the people that attack him physically, not just in the media. But how to stop Richard Spencer? Well, he's speaking at the University of Florida at the time of this recording, and I can say that no matter what happens, it's going to be a success for him because two things will happen. One of two things will happen. One, it goes off great. He gives his speech. There are protesters outside being peaceful. He leaves. The end. That's considered a success for him. Or the protesters get violent, and there's a clash just like in Charlottesville or in Berkeley, and as long as the people on Spencer's side don't actually kill anyone, like what happened in Charlottesville, as awful as that is, as long as the people against Spencer don't get killed, it's also going to be a success for him. Because now you're showing again that he's just trying to give a speech, and his opponents are getting violent and attacking him. So that's also a win for him. Whether you agree with that or not, that's just the case. That's considered a win for him and for people that aren't really either way. The reason I say that is because the center will tend to side with the people that aren't violent. They'll tend to say, I don't like this guy, but violence, no, that just doesn't, I don't agree with that. So if this thing does become violent, and as long as the alt-right isn't as long as the alt-right isn't starting the violence, then they'll win. And I don't want them to win. I don't want the opponents to win either, but again, I'm not a fan of the alt-right. I don't want them to win. However, they have the right to speak. They have the right, unless they are actively inciting violence. And I know everyone says they're inciting violence with their racism. Well, the thing is, that's generally not the case. They may be saying racist things. They may be saying completely awful and incorrect things. But as long as they aren't saying, hey, let's go out and kill people, then they have a right to speak. As long as they're not saying, hey, let's go out and attack people for no reason like Antifa does, then they have the right to speak. And I have no problem with them speaking because, again, the best arguments win, in my opinion. But if you want to defeat Richard Spencer, then we need to back off of this censorship. We need to back off of the violence. We need to take a step back because that's a win for them. I mean, just imagine your perspective. And maybe you believe this, maybe you don't. Just take whatever perspective you have and imagine that the media was against you. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But imagine that they're against you. They're censoring you. They're out to get you. They're like, every time you do something, when you make a decent point, you feel that your point is moral, it's good. And then the media will come out and say, oh, this person's terrible. Or say you're giving a speech on how racism is bad. And people will show up to your speech, protest, saying, how dare you say that? Just imagine if that happened. The fact that these protests are happening, the fact that these violent protests are happening, is not going to deter you from your perspective. You're not going to be like, oh, I'm wrong. You're going to say, well, these people are getting violent. These people are attacking me. I must have a point here. And that's my whole point with this. That every time you attack Richard Spencer violently, every time you twist his views, every time you come at him with something that's not a genuine argument, you just strengthen him because he's going to say, well, look at these morons. If they're on that side, then I'm probably doing the right thing if they're against me. Just remember that this was the case for me. I think it was the case for most people, but maybe I'm wrong, that nobody really knew who Richard Spencer was until he was punched on Inauguration Day. I didn't know who he was. And then as soon as he was punched, I came to his defense immediately saying, not in public because I didn't have a channel back then, but from my perspective, he was the guy that I should defend, and rightfully so, because I knew nothing about him, but I knew that if he wasn't a thief or a liar or a murderer or whatever he was, as long as he wasn't, like, violating other people's rights, then he is in the defense here. He deserves to be defended because he does not deserve to be punched. But as soon as he did get punched, everyone knew who he was. Like, that was probably one of the best things to happen to him, because his popularity just shot up. Now, not most people, but a lot of people know who he is. A lot more than they did before Inauguration Day. And just imagine if he never was punched. This never would happen. There would be no state of emergency declared in Florida because he's coming to speak. He probably wouldn't even be invited to speak because no one would know who he was besides like that small portion of people that are going to support him no matter what. So again, I'm trying to help the side that's against Richard Spencer, not the violent side. Well, I mean, I guess I'm trying to help them in that I'm telling them not to be violent because it's not helping them. But that's the thing. If you want to stop him, stop talking about him, one, or two, come at him with legit arguments. Because I think he has a few legit points. And the fact that people are just saying, are just attacking him for literally anything he says does nothing but help his case. I mean, do you believe in free healthcare? If you do, do you believe in government-run single-payer healthcare? Well, you agree with Richard Spencer in that. I don't agree with that, but I'm not going to say he's a terrible person and that's why he's wrong. I'm going to say, here are my counter-arguments, because most of what he says, there are legitimate counter-arguments to, but nobody's bringing those counter-arguments. Like, if I say something and it's totally wrong, and someone comes at me with a baseball bat and tries to hurt me, that didn't prove me wrong. That actually kind of proved me right, if anything. You got to come at him with legitimate arguments and not this violent nonsense. I think this all wouldn't be happening if there wasn't violence. Just think of the Tiki Torch thing in Charlottesville. I think it was Charlottesville. Like that, they went around carrying Tiki Torches at night. How many people do you think they won over? Just a bunch of people carrying Tiki Torches at night down the street. Like, they got memed bad for that. People were making fun of them because that's funny. Like, that was stupid. That didn't help them. Charlottesville definitely didn't help them, whether it was violent or not. Even if it wasn't violent, it wouldn't really have helped them that much. Especially if you come at them with counter-arguments. And you might say, oh, they don't deserve to speak. You can't have this kind of hate in a platform like that. Well, okay, if you have this hateful organization and you're violent to that, if you're just attacking them in the streets, again, you're not disproving their arguments. You're not helping your case. And if you compare them to the legitimate Nazis, that these legitimate Nazis aren't concerned with arguments. They're all violent people. They're not concerned with it. Well, then fight them when they become violent. Stop them when they become violent. Because honestly, the best thing for the alt-right so far has been the opposition. There would be no alt-right, or at least no sizable alt-right movement, if they didn't have this opposition constantly attacking them. And they're here for a reason. And the reason is because the people that sympathize with the alt-right feel they are under attack. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But the question is, why are they feeling like that? If it's all a hoax and they're not under attack, well then explain using logical arguments. But if someone feels under attack and then you hear stories of violence against people they like, you're not going to win them over. It's just going to be more and more violence. It's just going to escalate. Because more and more people will join the alt-right side, and more people will join the Antifa side, and it's just going to get worse. So if you're against these people, the only solution is counter-arguments. Once they become violent, then we can deal with them. Because, Antifa's violent. Antifa will attack people that aren't fascists. Antifa will attack anyone that isn't far left. If you go on their pages, they're legit pages because there's a lot of fake ones out there. But if you go on their legit pages, they hate liberals too. They see liberals as traitors that aren't picking a side. They see liberals as just as bad as the alt-right. These people are not on your side. These people are legitimately violent, and because of that, if someone attacks a member of Antifa at this rally when Antifa is being violent, well, then I don't blame them. I sympathize with them. If anyone from Antifa is there with their history of violence and they get attacked, I can see the perspective that would justify attacking them. Now, again, Charlottesville, someone got run over and died. That's messed up. That's absolutely awful. So at the same time, I can see that hey, it's now justified to attack these people violently because they killed someone. But again, we're grouping all these people together, and it's just not going to go anywhere. It's only going to lead to violence from that perspective. Again, I'm trying to, my side here, my goal is to stop the violence. My goal is to stop the alt-right from rising. It's to stop Antifa from rising. It's to get rid of the violent organizations. And to do that, you need to bring arguments to the table. It's either arguments and words or violence. It's going to be one of those two. So you gotta learn. So if you want to stop the alt-right, learn their arguments and then counter them. That's all you can do. But let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if I missed something or if I didn't address something. I would love to talk about it. That I don't think I'm objectively definitely right. I think I'm probably right. That's why I'm making this video. But again, tell me why you disagree or if you agree. I'm not a fan of the whole, yeah, but these people are violent, so we need to be violent too. Because it literally is both sides saying that. Like, it really, I am the centrist that both sides hate. They both seem really, really awful, and I'm not going to pick one because they're so similar. So, but let me know what you think. If you're alt-right, let me know what you think. If you're part of Antifa or the far left, let me know what you think. Let's have a discussion in the comments. But like the video if you enjoyed, if you thought it was helpful or informative or just contributed something, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.